riri he toa, he toa. He toa tēnei, he toa iti, he iti rori e ngaro ana ki roto i te mati kūkū. Tēnei ahau e te tipua katahi ka tikana atu ki tērā i a whakatau. Whakatau ngā kina te mate o tū whakararo. Whakatau aki toa tau a matakai kutu. Whakatau wera i te ahi i te urua manono i te mana hua e. E ai ki te kōrero, ko tahi te whitu e tuana ki Hawaiki. Ko whakatū anake, ko whakatau pōtiki e tihe wā mauri ora. Tihe wā mauri ora ki te whaia, ki te ao marama. Kei ngā pai maunga o tā whiti nui, tā whiti roa, tā whiti pāmama. E tū mahuta ki ngā tō pito katoa te ao, e tū. Kei ngā rauawa, o tā uki rāno. E pupuri nei ki te Māori, o wai tapu, o wai ora. E rere. Kai ngā whare kōrero, o tēnā marae, e whakawaha nei i ngā pū kōrero a kui mā koro mā. Tēnei nā, te puru o tāmaki, ki Ngāti Whātua, e mihi nei e tangi nei ki a koutou, haere mai, haere mai, haere mai rā. Nau piki mai, nau kake mai, ki tāmaki nui, tāmaki roa, tāmaki kāinga ngā ika, me ngā wheaua katoa. Hara mai ki rungi i te reo Pōwhiri, o tumutumu whenua e mihi nei. Mauria mai o koutou pūkenga o koutou mātauranga, hei whakahiko i te hiringaro, hei whakaihi i te manawa o te tangata. Nā reira e koutou rā e aku manuhiri tuārangi, koutou e aku amorangi, tūrere hua ki te whenua, koutou aku amo kapua, tū whakamataku ki te rangi, tau mai te Māori o tēnei tā tātou nei wānanga, Māori tū, Māori roa, Māori Ōrākei, he wai.
He aha te hau, he aha te hau, awa wara mai, he tiu he rā ki nāna, ia mai te pupu taraki hiki uta, e tiki nā tue au, te kotu ko ia te pau hakairo katu, ki wei te mata, i oku weirangi e. He aha te hau, e wawara mai, he tiu he rā ki nāna, ia mai te pupu taraki hiki uta, e tiki nā tue au, te kotu mo ia te pau hakairo katu, ki wei te mata, i oku weirangi e koki.
Āpiti hono, tātai hono, rātau ngā pura whetū ki te rangi ki a rātau. Āpiti hono, tātai hono, a tātau ngā waihotanga mai o ngā mātua tupuna e pai nei i tēnei rā. Tēnā koutou, tēnā rā tātou katoa.
E aku heru hāpai ngā e ngauri o te tau te urungutu ngā oho. Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei e here nei kūtau i ngā taurao ngā waka mano o te motu o te ao. Tēnā kūtau katoa au kauana te pupuhi o haumihi kia kūtau katoa. Nau mai e te ao. We are honoured to be received and officially welcomed in such a powerful fashion by the kaitiaki, the custodians of this land here where we are situated and where this event is being hosted. Indigenous inclusion and our relationships with iwi, Māori, is a key priority for Aotearoa New Zealand's hosting of APEC 2021. And we are proud to host this event alongside Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei. Nō reira haumi e, hui e,
Tai ki e, kai aku hui a kai manawa, kai ngā tumu here ngā waka kua pai mai ki runga o tāmaki here i ngā waka, here hoki i ngā tāngata o tira ki runga o tāmaki makaurau. Nei rā, aumihi e tere atu nei kia koutou. Nau mai, haere mai, welcome everyone to this year's APEC CEO Summit from wherever you are joining us from across the Asia Pacific. Ko pūtaua ki te maunga, ko rangitai ki te awa, ko hāhuru te marae, ko Ngāti awa te iwi, ko te pahipoto te hapu, ko Oriini Kaipara aho. My name is Oriini Kaipara and I'm a journalist and a newsreader at News Hub here in Aotearoa.
Kia ora ko Julian Wilcox, taku ingoa no ngā puhi Ngāti tuwharetoa me te arawa. It's great to have you with us and it's a privilege to be here. Now we, Oriini and I, are two of your hosts for the CEO Summit, coming to you live, as I said, from Tāmaki Makaurau, Auckland, Aotearoa, New Zealand, and we will be with you throughout the next 2 days, sharing updates on what's coming up next. And now to one of our other hosts, the man himself, Jack Tame is over there.
The man. That's a bit of a stretch, Julian.
No,
Kia ora,
it's
Julian.
not.
Kia ora. Kia ora, Oriini. Kia ora is a word you're going to hear a lot over the next couple of days. Kia ora means hello in Te Reo Māori, the Māori language. Ko Jack aho. My name is Jack, and I'm coming to you live from the marvellous Kiri Te Kanawa Theatre in the Aotea Centre, right in the heart of Auckland City. It is a great pleasure to have you with us for the 2021 APEC CEO Summit. Now, this stage is where we'll be broadcasting for the next 2 days. So I'm here at the centre screen where we'll be hearing addresses from APEC economy leaders and keynote speakers over the next 2 days. But one of the great things about this magnificent set is it enables us to bring together people from across the Asia Pacific over here at our panel desk. So you'll be seeing a lot more of this over the next 2 days. All right, back to you, Oriini.
Tēnā koe, Jack. We also have, for the first time, a digital host at the APEC CEO Summit. So, without further ado, let's welcome Māia.
Kia ora, everyone. My name is Māia, and I'm honoured to be here as your digital host. I'm excited to be with you for the next 2 days. I'm looking forward to hearing from some of the world's most inspiring speakers and interacting with you, our delegates. I'll also be growing my artificial intelligence by learning as much as I can from these formidable hosts.
Ka pai Māia, and I'll remember that name. It's a beautiful name. It's because it's my wife's name.
That's
actually.
right.
Ngā mihi nui kia koe Māia. We are excited to have you here with us too.
Absolutely. The CEO Summit is the most important meeting of decision makers in the Asia Pacific. Over the next 2 days, we'll hear from world leaders, thought leaders and business executives from across the region. They'll be discussing the biggest challenges and opportunities facing business right now.
That's right. And to begin and to set the scene for today, day one, it is our pleasure to introduce the 2021 APEC CEO Summit Chair, Barbara Chapman.
Kia ora tātou. Ngā mihi nui, thank you for that wonderful welcome from Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei. As Indigenous inclusion has been a key priority for New Zealand's hosting of APEC, it was only fitting that we are officially welcomed by mana whenua, the people of the land where this event is being hosted. On behalf of the APEC CEO Summit Committee, I'd like to add my welcome to those of you joining us from across the Asia Pacific region and around the globe today. We very much regret that you are not able to be here with us in person and enjoy our wonderful Kiwi hospitality. But despite all the many challenges that COVID has caused us, we are delighted with the program we've been able to put together and the opportunity to be able to connect with you online. We have 2 power-packed days of compelling thinkers and ideas in front of us, and I'm sure that you, like me, are looking forward to hearing from our very special speakers and panellists. We are delighted to be able to offer this summit to you, not just for today, but for an entire month, when you can revisit the presentations and take advantage of the networking opportunities available on our platform. The APEC CEO Summit is the most influential annual meeting of business and government in the Asia Pacific, and this year's program lives up to that. We have leaders from APEC's largest economies sharing their thoughts. You'll hear from business leaders from some of the world's largest enterprises, and we will be challenged by provocative thought leaders introduced to new paradigms from international academics and be inspired by the creative and innovative people who are setting the agenda for the decade ahead. Each of the keynote addresses will be supported by a group of globally recognised panellists who will continue the discussion with international and New Zealand speakers combining to provide both a local and a regional perspective to every topic. The themes of the summit were carefully chosen to reflect the most important and pressing topics of our time. They are the state of the world with and post-COVID, the digital disruption opportunity, the primacy of trust, the future of energy, and the sustainability imperatives. The topics we are discussing at the CEO Summit sit at the intersection of what investors are currently talking to businesses about, what APEC has been discussing during New Zealand's host year, and what business leaders are discussing with their boards and their management teams. This summit brings together the best global thought leaders who will shine a spotlight on the areas that are already high on business agendas. And my personal aspiration for the summit is that we bring together in this place people who want to find better ways of tackling the issues that businesses face today. If the summit gives people a new perspective on any of our themes, then I think we can call it a success. In closing, I want to acknowledge all those who have worked so hard to bring this event together. This includes the other members of the CEO Summit Committee who have given their time generously to support this event. Thanks also to our Executive Director, Jonathan Alva, and his team, who have gone to extraordinary lengths to ensure that, while virtual, this summit will deliver all of the benefits you would expect from an in-person event. They have adapted and changed tack with every new challenge that COVID has thrown at us. I would also like to thank every member of the APEC CEO Summit team and the wider APEC New Zealand team for all of your efforts. Finally, events such as these are not possible without the support of the business community. In addition to you, our registered delegates, we've also been very fortunate to have a group of committed and engaged partners. Thank you very much to PwC, knowledge partner of the 2021 APEC CEO Summit, and our premier partners, Contact Energy, Fonterra, Microsoft, and Westpac New Zealand. Thank you also to our international media partners, Bloomberg, Time, and CNBC. I would also like to acknowledge New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, whom you will hear from shortly, for her leadership of APEC 2021 and her support for this event and her involvement over the next 2 days. It has been a challenging journey at times to get this far, but we are proud of the event and the speaking program that has been assembled. I'm sure you will enjoy, be inspired by, make important connections, and take away knowledge from the conversations this week. Ngā mihi nui. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce the Prime Minister of New Zealand and Chair of APEC 2021, the Right Honourable Jacinda Ardern. Prime Minister Ardern became Prime Minister of New Zealand in 2017 and was re-elected in 2020. She will give the 2021 CEO Summit opening address. Welcome, Prime Minister.
Ina mana, ina reo, ina rangatira. I te whānau o APEC, ka mihi a Aotearoa. Nui tirani ki a koutou katoa. Nau mai, hari mai, ki tēnei hui. Ki na mātei o te ao. Haere atu rā. Rātou ki a rātou. Ki a tātou e hoa mā. Ki a haumaru te noho. Mauri tu, mauri ora. Wai hoki ohanga tu. O hangaroa, haumi e, hui e, tae ki e. A warm greeting to all of you from Aotearoa, New Zealand. It is a pleasure to open the summit. We have a saying in New Zealand, he rau ringe e oti ai. Many hands make light work. While this exemplifies Kiwi attitudes, in many ways it's what the whole world has been doing for the past 2 years. The heavy load of a global pandemic that in equal measure threatens lives and livelihoods has been countered only with an extraordinary commitment to unity, partnership, and progress in spite of the challenges. And it's in that spirit of cooperation and progress that I say it's an honour to talk with you all today. Executives and leaders from business of all shapes and sizes from all over the APEC region subject experts, industry leaders, innovators, great thinkers, entrepreneurs, people who are making a significant difference to our futures, to our businesses, and to how we trade across the APEC region. No mai, haere mai, welcome. I wish I was welcoming you to the beautiful city of sails that is Auckland. But I shall do that instead in 2022 as we reconnect with the world. But you might want to be quick. Auckland has been named by Lonely Planet as the best city in the world to visit next year, and for good reason. But rather than talk about it, I invite you to see it for yourself. Until then, I wanted to share a few reflections on the last 20 months here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, which, like everywhere else, has been defined by COVID-19. Now, each economy around the world faced vastly different challenges when initially confronted with the pandemic, but there are some lessons that have been consistent. One such lesson is that the health of our people and the health of our economies are intrinsically linked. Now, our government here in New Zealand believed this from the outset. As a nation, we worked hard to eliminate the virus while at the same time sustaining the economy through a $12 billion COVID-19 economic response package. That helped businesses keep their staff employed and afloat. New Zealand's economy is bouncing back. In fact, it has been held up incredibly well throughout, despite the tough picture internationally, despite the challenges also with supply chains, and despite the twin blows associated with the loss of two of our biggest export earners, tourism and international education. We have had strong economic growth. Employment is at a record high and the third highest in the OECD, and we have one of the lowest levels of government debt in the OECD. And while it's been incredibly tough for many, business confidence has been sustained and companies continue to invest. And so there continue to be lessons from COVID that after first securing the health of your population, you can build back better. And bringing more options to the table for our exporters is key for a country like ours. That's why we were excited in recent weeks to announce a free trade agreement with the United Kingdom. A strong economy built on healthy export receipts has also provided the government with the fiscal headroom needed to continue to support those businesses most in need. This sits alongside our focus on ensuring our recovery is inclusive and equitable, because as always, those with the least are hit with the full force of the disruption and hardship associated with an economic shock like this one. But ultimately, the strength and sustainability of the recovery depends on our connections, including to this Asia-Pacific region. Now, every crisis does present an opportunity, and the 21 APEC economies have been dealt a heavy burden, but also an opportunity to strike an economic reset on a scale we haven't seen since World War II. This year, APEC leaders have shown a determination to work together, to emerge from this pandemic stronger and more resilient than we were before. Now, we have already met once this year, and we will meet again tomorrow. But that cooperation cannot just be between governments. An inclusive and sustainable recovery and economic resilience for our region must occur alongside you, business, because our prosperity is more closely linked now than it's ever been before. Now, while governments can set standards and show leadership, we've also seen a bold business community implement change during such challenging times. As we prepare for the post-pandemic era, there are 3 areas where government and business can work strongly together to grow our economies and societies. First, to digital. If there is a silver lining to the restrictions we've all recently experienced, it is that we've been forced to take a major digital leap forward. After years of talking about the digital transformation, COVID-19 accelerated our progress by years. Just to give you a few examples here in New Zealand, we've launched the Digital Boost program, which drives partnerships with the private sector to deliver digital training to tens of thousands of small to medium-sized enterprises so that they have the tools and skills needed to be resilient and thrive. So crucial in a country like ours, made up mostly of small and micro businesses. Liz Mitchell, one of New Zealand's long-standing fashion designers, faced a difficult pandemic-induced problem, taking measurements of clients, both locally and overseas, for bespoke garments when travel restrictions were in place. She shared her challenge with Digital Boost and came away with online measurement tools and video media, digital solutions that were picked up by other businesses facing similar challenges. One food business used Digital Boost to optimise social media just before a lockdown, and now instead of producing 200 jars for her local market, she gets orders of over 2,000. Another entrepreneur who didn't have access to the internet until the age of 18 now helps our farming community to digitise parts of their work on the farm to seek efficiencies while meeting environmental rules. And if you need an even more Kiwi example, our second most capped All Black, Kevin Mialamu, has spoken about how Digital Boost helped him to run a successful gym with digital tools that help people stay connected and motivated with their training. We're also supporting trade in the digital era. The Digital Economy Partnership Agreement between New Zealand, Chile and Singapore, which Korea and China are now looking to join, and we welcome those others looking to accede, has established cutting-edge rules and practices to facilitate digital trade and promote ongoing discussion on issues like digital inclusion. This brings me to the second area of cooperation, inclusion. This is about combating inequality, but it is also about maximising the benefits from an engaged and productive labour force. If business and government take action on gender parity in the workplace alone, McKinsey's estimate that global GDP would be US $13 trillion higher in 2030. That is like adding an economy the size of China to our global economic weight. The adoption of gender-responsive policies and business practices will enable women and girls to participate in and benefit from the recovery from COVID-19. This is particularly important as we deal with the US $1 trillion shock of women falling out of the workforce as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Empowering Indigenous peoples is another area of economic opportunity that is also the right thing to do. There are about 270 million Indigenous peoples across our region, the majority of whom have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic. Here in New Zealand, we've not shied away from doing the mahi, the work, and building our partnership across all aspects of life with Māori. And I know as a region, we are absolutely committed to unlocking the full potential for economic growth and improved social and commercial outcomes for Indigenous communities. In recent years, the Māori economy here in New Zealand has emerged as one of the fastest growing parts of our economy, with it now worth 70 billion New Zealand dollars. We want to work alongside other APEC economies to grow the opportunity for Indigenous businesses across the entire region. The third area where business and government has a shared agenda is sustainability and climate change. We must not allow the post-COVID recovery to return to business as usual, driving up emissions and, of course, heading towards a trajectory of global warming. Customers want choices, and increasing numbers are choosing to go green. You'll know better than me that people buy products aligned to their personal values. And so innovative businesses at the forefront of providing green products and services are already establishing a commercial advantage over their competitors. As a government, we're committed to deepening our partnership with business to urgently address the transition to a low-carbon future. And with significant green investment and R&D funds already available, sustainable businesses are set to grow. In New Zealand, we are investing $300 million to recapitalise the New Zealand Green Investment Finance to support investing and to support the transition away from climate change heavy industries. We're making a big investment into infrastructure too, $57.3 billion over the next 5 years, providing an opportunity to transform our economy to energy generation and transport models that shift us away from a reliance on fossil fuels. And governments have a responsibility to send the right signals to businesses and consumers, for example, by discouraging inefficient use of fossil fuels. Why on earth are governments subsidising fossil fuel use to the tune of some $500 billion every year? I'm pleased that APEC is turning the tide on these subsidies by taking concrete steps to tackle them. And I'm proud that we are taking practical action in APEC this year to wean the industry off these fossil fuel subsidies, as well as launching new work to identify additional environmental goods and services to help us all tackle the climate change challenge in particular, and sustainability generally. Finally, I want to talk about trade as a force for good. Now, as we build back better and get back to business, inclusive and sustainable trade will drive our global economic recovery and future prosperity. Now, with APEC making up 47% of global trade, we need openness in our region to drive global growth. The challenges of the pandemic have been large scale. With the biggest economic contraction in 75 years, 81 million jobs have been lost across the region. The fragility of supply chains have been exposed, with some considering reshoring. The temptation to retreat into protectionism is clear. Right from the start of the pandemic, New Zealand worked with other APEC economies to keep markets open. We worked to maintain trade in essential goods by unilaterally suspending tariffs on medical and PPE-related goods. And now we have done the same for vaccine-related goods. We are working to enhance the trade architecture that underpins New Zealand's export economy. And as I said earlier, I was proud to announce agreement in principle on a free trade agreement with the United Kingdom last month that creates new opportunities for our businesses. It was also our first to include specific commitments on climate change, another global challenge we all share, with provisions towards eliminating subsidies on fossil fuels and new rules to combat overfishing. And I'm pleased to say APEC has stood up and rejected protectionism in this crisis. The region has defied history by avoiding the scourge of bigger-than-neighbour trade policies that choke off trade and drive poverty by reducing economic activity, growth and employment across our economies. In fact, the reverse is true. This year, all APEC economies have worked to make trade easier as we battle the pandemic. Most have introduced paperless trading to get goods across borders more easily, that save money and time for all businesses. We also secured agreement to accelerate border clearance procedures. And like us, many APEC members have also cut tariffs on vaccines and other goods to fight the pandemic. We have together committed to addressing barriers to those services such as logistical and transportation that are needed to distribute vaccines and other essential goods. Crucially, all of us have explicitly rejected a race to the bottom by avoiding competitive devaluations. Now, these are remarkable, history-defying achievements during a time of global crisis. It's been an honour to reflect with you on a tough year as we look to the future and work hard to generate future opportunities for partnership, whatever that future may hold. I look forward to seeing the outcome of this very important conference, and I look forward to our continued work together. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Kei te manu tāta ariki e te manu whakataka pōkai te Premier. Tēnā koe I au kupu whakataki tēnei o ngā kaupapa nui whakaharahara. Thank you very much for your address, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, and for setting the scene for this summit. I don't know about you, Julian, but it was quite a profound insight into where we are headed into the future post-COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes, and also thank you, Prime Minister, for preempting my next bit, which is all about the themes for the APEC Conference 2021, and we will get into that. But I think I'll go back to the beginning, we should emphasise one really crucial point, he rauringa e Aotea, and I think that speaks really well for the APEC region, working together, the need for interconnectedness. And what that really means is that each economy within the APEC region has its strengths, has its advantages, and as much as possible, working with each other to be able to build back better, which is a message that many people have been talking about through the COVID-19 epidemic.
And it hits the heart more for me as Māori. That's something we intrinsically are, we function as a community, as a collective. It's never about the individual. So I was excited to hear her talk, especially about inclusion and sustainability, and of course digital. We can't get through this pandemic without a connection to the digital online world. So tēnā koe e nā kōrero i te minita. We'd like to thank also our premier partners for helping to make this year's summit possible. Nō reira, e mihi ana, thank you very much to PwC, knowledge partner of the 2021 APEC CEO Summit, and joined by additional premier partners Contact Energy, Fonterra, Microsoft and Westpac New Zealand. Thank you also to our international media partners, Bloomberg, Time and CNBC. They'll be joining us here from across the region as moderators, speakers and panellists throughout the next 2 days.
He tika tau. We have a very busy program indeed over the next 2 days, covering 5 major themes. The state of the world with and post-COVID, including economic recovery, trade and protectionism, featuring OECD Secretary-General Matthias Cormann.
Open markets, a strong competitive framework, a system which rewards the most productive and innovative business ideas and encourages investment in future growth will lead to quality job creation and the lifting of living standards.
The sustainability imperative, including sustainable growth, climate change and food. Also, the digital disruption opportunity, including digital transformation, technology and innovation, and the importance of digital equity. Featuring digital media leader, someone I've followed for a little while now, Amber Mack.
Right now, the world needs humane technology. For decades, we've been talking about how technology can truly improve the world. But too much of our technology today actually exploits users. This shift to humane technology will likely require a new set of leaders that are focused on people first, and the profits will follow.
The future of energy, including clean tech and renewable energy. And also the primacy of trust, including ESG and business as a force for good. Now, that's been mentioned already in the opening address by the chair of APEC 2021, of course, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern. And after all of that, we will be looking to the future, me mātai whakamua tātou katoa. Because after all, we are here today just as guardians of the earth for future generations. In Māori, this is known as kaitiakitanga.
Now, while the pandemic means that this year's summit is virtual, that is where the distancing ends. This is your opportunity to connect, hono mai, and network with business leaders across the Asia Pacific, not only during the 2 days of this live broadcast, but for 30 days following the summit. We want you to chat with each other and also with us and be a part of the conversation, the kōrero, and that's where Māia comes in.
One of my jobs during the summit is to listen to your comments and answer any questions you have using the platform's chat function. Please let me know what you're thinking. I will pass on a selection of your comments to Oriini, Jack and Julian.
Tēnā koe, Māia. We look forward to hearing your comments e te iwi throughout the summit.
Indeed, and we will be hearing from APEC economy leaders throughout the next 2 days.